From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, and brought to you by Bet Online, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, the author of Blackout, Candace Owens. With Gina on news, Bald Brian on sound effects, and Jeff Cesario with the sports, and now he hasn't watched the debate yet, so he doesn't know who won, but he does know who lost. All of us. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but get it on. You managed to get it on, man. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for sharing. Right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
Handball, Brian?
No.
No.
Dawson reminded me of that before the show.
Is that Pam Adlon?
Yep.
That is, not to be confused with a similarly named and similar sounding Steven Adler's mom.
Not.
And Bobby from King of the Hill,
Yeah,
right?
Bobby Hill.
Steven Adler's mom is Bobby.
Yeah.
All right. So much to discuss. Where to start? I will start by, I read a tweet when I got up this morning, was from the Comedy Store. The Comedy Store, you know, the businesses that are neither fish nor fowl, these are the troubled businesses. So the restaurants, well, you can move outdoors and eat if you're in Southern California, Los Angeles, or most of California, unless you're in Orange County, in which case you just go, fuck it, we're opening up. Or if you're a hair salon, you can go to the parking lot, or you can bring in a certain amount of people under certain auspices. There seems to be ways that people are getting around some of the imposed procedures and whatnot. But if you're a comedy club, you're going to have a difficult time with what we're doing here. And so, as a guy who had just been made, like in the mafia, where I was made at the Comedy Store, which means I was just a regular, and I was going out a couple times a week to the Comedy Store. But the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory, are on the same street, Sunset, which, by the way, was being blocked the other night. Folks who have a cause, please stop blocking everything. I feel like you're going to anger more people than get them on your side. So I think I saw a picture, as a matter of fact, Max Zapata, somebody tweeted out a picture with right in front of the Comedy Store. They just blocked off Sunset Boulevard. Was definitely the picture I saw, because the Comedy Store was on the left and that's Sunset Boulevard. Anyway, the Laugh Factory is a block and a half away from the Comedy Store. The Comedy Store is up a little bit from the Improv, which is sort of down the hill a little bit, about a mile. But that was kind of the circuit, and then some of the other places in between, Ice House, places like that. Anyway, all closed down. It's been a very long period of time. And there is no end in sight, I think, if you're the Comedy Store. And obviously these places employ a lot of waiters and waitresses and cooks and cleaners and everything else, bartenders. So the Comedy Store came up with an idea to open and do their business in the parking lot, to do an outdoor version of this.
Pretty popular here in LA. Lots of restaurants. Christy went to a parking lot restaurant the other night.
And it's warm as hell outside, so it's okay at night. It's not snowing or sleeting or anything. Also, this thing, here's kind of the way we play it in LA. First off, the people that are in charge of this, I think what we all could agree on is, well, let's see. There's 4 people in charge. You have the governor, you have the mayor of Los Angeles, you have the health director, Barbara Ferrer, and then you have a third person who Drew calls an imbecile. So you have 4 people, and all 4 of them are squarely in the same camp, which is fucking shut it down until everything goes away. That's what I would like. I would like 2 people be pro open it up and 2 people be against open it up, and then we could follow the science and see where the data led us. But we have all 4 people in California who just want it shut down. I don't know what the end game is. Maybe it's after the election. I don't know how this helps.
According to Barbara Ferrer.
Well, that's when the schools will open, when the election's done. I get it. We're the safest and the lamest and the softest and the biggest pussies in the country. But at a certain point, Aren't we worried about places like the Comedy Store going away forever and some of these businesses and restaurants going away forever? Many of them are going away forever. So
Many have.
And so what we do, you have the video of Sunset blocked off. Was that from last night? Or was that from when? It's by the Laugh Factory. Sorry.
Side street or U-turn? Thank you. You have a wonderful evening. Side street or U-turn?
That doesn't look sanctioned.
That's Laugh Factory. Right.
U-turn.
Right.
That was last night.
Right. That was last night. Okay. Blocking off Sunset Boulevard, one of the busiest thoroughfares in the city. Now, if I want to put a patio on the back of my house and I don't go down to Glendale Building Safety and suck off some bureaucrat behind the counter, the guys will rappel down from helicopters and shut me down the next day. So I don't know what kind of society you want. Do you want the kind of society where people wait in line, pull permits, and do everything by the book? Or do you want a society where people just take out to the streets, close off Sunset Boulevard, get bullhorns, and start directing traffic, and you, as the authorities, just step back?
It looked like the streets they kept trying to turn down and block down. Just blocked, barricaded.
There's a bunch of gals and guys that just park their cars long ways across, or short ways, however you want to do it, but they used their cars, 4 or 5 cars. They made a barrier of automobiles. They blocked it off. They got on a bullhorn, and it looks like 4 cars just parked end to end to end. By the way, the good news is next time someone says, how wide is Sunset Boulevard? I'll go 4.5 Priuses. Exactly. Because that's exactly it. They took 4 cars, they put it across, they stood out there with signs and bullhorns and just started redirecting traffic in the middle of Los Angeles. And yet, you're going to write fucking parking tickets for people not having their wheels turned in at the right angle on a 8% grade. I'm telling you, Los Angeles, I say it's off. You get another fucking parking ticket, fuck it. You get another summons about a building thing. It's like, fuck it. If it's anarchy, then it's anarchy. I don't want to pay parking tickets and not be able to use Sunset Boulevard. Yes.
And it's the thing we all hate, which is the selective enforcement. Like, there's a car, I can see it. It's been there for a better part of a week in front of my house. And I was like, all right, well, it's time. I'll to call it in this abandoned vehicle. I go on the website, click on a report vehicle here. It's like, oh, we're no longer enforcing abandoned vehicles. So
right.
That's
the end. Nothing else to click on.
But just to add to that point, as you hear this, they are going to start ticketing again. They're going to start all the ticketing and the meters and everything start as you hear this.
They'll log on right now.
I would urge nobody to pay those tickets. And also, let's not forget, when Mark Garagos' client reopened their salon 2 weeks ago, the cops did show up and drag him out of there. So they have resources. They just how they allocate them.
It is remarkably ironic that probably the most ticketed street in Los Angeles is Hollywood Boulevard. And those
Sunset,
tickets, and they just let them park across the street.
Well, there you go, everybody.
There we go.
So
They don't have
now
tow trucks.
I read, and I've had cars towed. I've had motorcycles towed. Okay, fine. We don't enforce rules for a certain group. We do enforce rules for others. Fine. It's the beginning of the end of a society. Now, I was looking at this tweet, and there's first off an article. So here's how we work. We do a thing where we go, hey, Labor Day is coming up this weekend. Record temperatures in the San Fernando Valley, literally 121 degrees. All of humanity flocks to the beach. No one's wearing a mask, and there's just throngs of humanity on the beach as far as the eye can see. I was there all 3 days. That's all I could see was traffic and humanity on the beach. And then the folks that are worried, who are in charge, say, be prepared for a surge. You can't have that many people in that proximity to one another for that period of time without a surge. And
haven't we figured out the outdoor open air thing? Isn't that?
Well,
is there a lot of evidence?
You blink your eyes, a month has gone by, and there is no surge.
There was no surge.
I don't know if you have that article, Dawson. You can probably just read the top.
Los Angeles County coronavirus update. LA records only 1 death recorded to COVID-19 on Monday. No Labor Day surge emerges. Lowest total since March.
Okay, so now we get to, right, but we still got to have it locked down. So now the Comedy Store.
Right, let me make one more point here in the article. It says that only one new coronavirus-related death was reported on Monday, but officials were quick to point out that reporting lags over the weekend. So if you have a glimmer of hope,
right.
no.
So
hope.
we're gonna have 3 on Tuesday.
Right.
Yeah.
And Labor Day was a month ago. No surge. Okay. So now the Comedy Store comes up with a plan to reopen. And the Comedy Store wants to open outdoors. And that tweet from the Comedy Store says,
Dear fans, we've been notified by the LA County Health Department that outdoor live entertainment is not allowed at this time, despite the city of West Hollywood's approval based on our very safe and thoughtful approach to enjoying stand-up comedy in our parking lot. Our shows this weekend will be fully refunded. We're sorry for the inconvenience and look forward to seeing you all soon. If you feel the way we do about the importance of bringing stand-up comedy back, email our LA County Supervisor, Sheila Kuehl.
okay, well, there's a lot of people in the street these days protesting things, so it seems, during the nighttime, out on the streets, blocking off Sunset, having marches and stuff like that. By the way, if anyone knows West Hollywood or West WeHo, West LA, they're probably fairly conservative, not politically, but from a safety standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
No glove, no love, baby.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
That they are. If WeHo, that's West Hollywood, it's the gay portion of town.
Boys Town.
If they say, we believe it is safe enough for you to open your business, I'm going to say that business could have opened in any city in the country, possibly the world at that point. But LA still had to get involved and make sure this landmark that has done nothing. I mean, look, the Comedy Store isn't responsible for putting LA on the map, but the Comedy Store, LA owes a lot to the Comedy Store. All the Richard Pryors and the George Carlins and the legendary and Sam Kinison, the legend. I mean, it's a legendary spot that has not only paid a ton of taxes, but launched many a career that have now paid in millions and billions of dollars in taxes. I don't know. Maybe you work with them. Maybe you try to be a little flexible.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that the outdoor thing feels like a clever workaround and a responsible one.
Right.
Shut it down.
And is it the kind of thing that they're saying, but if we let you do it, we have to let everybody open? I mean, is that the lame excuse they're
Next
using?
thing you know, Barney's Beanery is going to want to have outdoor seating.
Well, all the restaurants are having outdoor seating. I'm not privy to all of what the Comedy Store was planning. I know the lay of the Comedy Store. I know how the parking lot works and the sort of side area works, and I'm kind of imagining how it's going to work. I'm assuming they spread the tables out and did all the protocols that everyone else is doing in their business. So why is the question? What's in it for you? Hey, bureaucrat that makes $53,000 a year. Why? What are you doing? What's inspiring you? What's motivating you? Other than someone is doing something and they didn't ask your permission and now you say no. What is different about this versus the beach on Labor Day? I thought we were going to follow the science. What happened to the science? The restaurants have been open. People have been eating out in patios and parking lots and tables spread out all over the place. Why shouldn't we be able to do comedy? What about taxpayers? What about businesses? What about lives? What about bartenders? And what about busboys? What about your community? Shouldn't we be? Here's what I'm saying. Shouldn't we be working to reopen these places versus crossing our arms and shaking our head and going, I don't think so. Mm-hmm. And that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like here in California and Los Angeles. And I don't know. That's a scary form of government to me. Shut it down. The initial shutdown is because we're going to flatten the curve. We're not going to overwhelm the hospitals. 200 days later, it's like, I don't know.
Till further notice.
You can do stuff outside. Seems safe, but I don't think you're going to do that.
Yeah.
Feels like you say, it comes from a place of fear. Like, regardless of what the science says or what evidence is showing us about outdoor versus indoor, blah, blah, no one wants to be the person to put that rubber stamp and say, yeah, we're all good, for fear that there's an outbreak at that club, go whatever it is. I don't think the person wants that albatross hanging around their neck.
It's like the execs at networks and stuff we've talked about. Nobody wants to greenlight something. It's safer and more comfortable to just pass.
I wish it was simply fear. I really do, because I think it's a little more like when Barbara Ferrer says, when the election's done, we can open the schools, that doesn't feel fear-based to me. Right. It feels something else is motivating that. I wish it was just fear, because if you go, hey, I'm fearful that people are going to get this disease spread in the parking lot of the Comedy Store, then you go, okay, well, let's look at some data then. Let me assuage your fear. See, here's the beach. Right. Here was Labor Day. Here are many restaurants up and down the street that have opened safely outdoors for months now or weeks now. So now that you've got the information, you won't be fearful anymore. It feels like it feels like somebody's enjoying this power. And my question is, how long are we going to take it? How long before people just go, fuck it? Like, how long before we start opening shit up? How long before we stop listening, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, when and for how long? How much of the rest of the country has to open up? How many sort of inconsistencies do we need? How many, well, that cafe can be open with people sitting next to each other outdoor, but you couldn't hear comedy in that same sort of environment or using that same table layout. You couldn't hear what Patton Oswalt has to say. Like, that doesn't make sense. At what point do people start going, I'm just going to open my shit? By the way, if you notice, lots of businesses, scary, but lots of businesses, you'll notice, and I've noticed this, like the jiu-jitsu dojo that was closed for 4 months now has butcher paper over the windows and sort of sounds coming from the inside. All the places where you got a massage or a haircut or a dojo or a gym or something, that's like butcher papers going up and you can see there's lights on inside.
They've all become speakeasies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long before people just start, they're already ignoring the rules because they've opened these places. How long before everyone just goes, fuck it, we're just opening? Like the Comedy Store should just open. They should just open their outdoor comedy.
And if you do it in the name of protest, if we're being fair, then you should have some leniency. People should be looking the other way because it's a protest.
Well,
yeah.
Yes, I had this thought today. Coming from a place, Los Angeles probably has the highest per capita group who've uttered the phrase, I speak truth to power. But all you pussies are silent on this subject, aren't you? You know, the power is Garcetti and the power is Newsom. That's the power. So all you heroes who speak truth to power, why don't you pipe up? Because I haven't heard shit from any of you pussies. Nobody speaks truth to that power. They speak truth to their power, whatever power makes them popular. Pipe up. The power's Garcetti. He's got his fucking boot on you. You guys speak truth to him, heroes, because that's what you do. You speak truth to power. That's what you all do, right? You're fucking heroes. I read your tweets. You always speak truth to power, and you announce we need to speak truth to power. All right. The Yentas in the street with the bullhorn shutting off Sunset Boulevard, they're speaking truth to power. Where's your voice? Why aren't you speaking up? Why aren't you coming together and fucking getting a bullhorn and getting in Garcetti's face or Newsom's face? They're the power. They've shut you down. No one else shut you down. They've shut you down. Or I'll make you this. Let's make a compromise. You shut the fuck up with your truth to power speeches. Shut up, pussies. Shut up. I don't want to hear you fucking sheep telling me about truth to power anymore when, in fact, there is a power, there is a truth, and you guys have zipped it because you're scared of what you may be called on social media. Okay, heroes, keep speaking truth to power. Blah.
Well
the
said.
End.
Hey, I have a stock tip for you.
Oh.
And I don't think it's too late. I think that we're probably just on the crest. And I'm not kidding. Don't you think this would be a good time to invest in patio furniture and umbrellas? Since all
right at the end of summer.
Well, but that's the thing. That's the only way restaurants can open. And what are they going to do with all this shit once they're allowed to go back inside? But now everyone's scurrying to find all this stuff so they can open in their parking lots.
You know what I'll add to that? Heat lamps.
Yeah,
be a lot of patio heat lamps keeping those, especially that fucking LA doesn't get that cold, but other parts of the country, you're going to need to keep those people warm.
The problem with the heat lamp is its effective range and sweet spot is so fine. It has to be, you need a safe cracker to dial those things in. Like there is the heat lamp, and then the heat lamp is like, my right side is on fire, my left side is freezing. My wife's nose has an icicle hanging off it, but actually the back of my neck is actually bubbling from the heat that's coming. Could you move that just 2 feet toward Mecca?
True.
And then so it's like, they work well, but they have to be placed perfectly. And
That's
also
true.
there's kind of a flaw, which is in the placement of the heat lamp, like on the foretop. Somebody's sitting directly under the heat lamp, and another person's 4 feet away on the other side. And they're like, I'm cold. And they're like, no, I need to turn it down. We need to spread the heat out a little more.
I've never been happier to show on this point, because I guess what I found at the Home Depot years ago and has changed my life. And now I'm like you, when people come over, like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, why doesn't every heat lamp have this? Chris, I just sent you a link. Put up the picture as soon as you can. My heat lamp that, again, I discovered at the Home Depot has a directional hood. The hood is on an articulating arm, and you can direct the heat exactly where you want it. It's amazing. As opposed to the heat just goes everywhere. Half goes against the wall, half goes against the person. I bought 2 of these. And every time someone's like, oh, that's nice. I'm like, this is not a bridge too far. This is $18 worth of modification.
Yeah, I agree. Smart. And yes, there's always the ability, the shotgun effect versus the Mark Wahlberg.
The sniper.
One last mission effect that Brian has.
And just to wrap this up, I just got an alert right now from the AP, the Associated Press. Disney says it plans to lay off 28,000 workers at its theme parks in California and Florida. So,
well, yes, I agree. I mean, the other thing is this: somebody's going to have to pick up a tax bill. Like we're going to have someone's. I don't know what's going on with the coffers, but there's not a lot of money being paid, not coming in with all these businesses. At some point, we're going to need this tax revenue for paying, cops and teachers and all sorts of firemen and all sorts of things we need here. Where do we expect this money to come from? How is this going to work? How's it pencil out? I mean, shouldn't the powers that be cautiously moving forward with like, hey, every day there's a bunch of businesses shut down as a day we don't get any tax money. So we got to figure out a way creatively to get these up and running so we can get paid. It's interesting. I keep asking smart people, what do you think the end game is? And they just go, no end game. I don't know. Like I wish someone had a sort of nefarious, like they'd go, I'll tell you what's going on. Yeah. But nothing's going on. It's just,
there's no plot.
There's just nothing. It's like that. The beach is open and comedy stores closed, and that's that. I'd like to get back to going to the Comedy Store. Oh, they're going to have people spread out all over the sidewalk.
You're still going to be 6 feet away.
That's how they did it. I was thinking about the back parking lot. I didn't even think about the front.
I think that is the back parking lot. It's from
yeah.
He's right.
Okay.
He's right. I see.
I'm right. Yes. It's a different angle in this shot. Yeah. Well, okay. What's the difference between a restaurant? All right. Let me hit Simply Safe here. Most home security companies trap you with high prices, tricky contracts, lousy customer support. There's only one no-brainer. That is Simply Safe. 2 eyes in there, everything to protect your home, an arsenal of sensors and cameras for every room, window, and door, tailored specifically to your home, professional monitoring day and night, ready to send police, fire, or medical professionals as well. Set up in under an hour, peel and stick. Batteries last up to 10 years. No technician required. $15 a month. No hidden fees. No small or fine print. This is the best, people. No pulling wires, no drilling, no muss, no fuss. U.S. News & World Report named it the best overall home security of 2020. Simply Safe, right, Dawson?
Head to simplysafe.com/Adam and get a free HD camera for our listeners. That's simplysafe.com/Adam to make sure they know our show sent you.
All right. Speaking of comedy, I'm going to be going to Salt Lake City both ways, flying privately on Garagus's jet. So we're all looking forward to that. Wise Guys will do it this weekend, and we'll do a couple of live shows there, a couple of live podcasts, and I'll do stand-up as well. Couple of tickets. The late night shows are sold out. There's a couple tickets left for the early shows. So I hear that'll be the live pod, and then also doing a Reasonable Doubt there, a matinee, I think 4:00 on Saturday. So tickets available for that. So if you're going to be in the Salt Lake area, come on out and say hi. I grabbed a clip. Max Paddock grabbed a clip. I think it was based on Wine, Dine, and 69, something we discussed here.
Yeah.
And somebody shouted it out when we were in
Tempe.
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so we're not doing the ping pong balls. Everyone's just shouting stuff out and we're just rolling with them.
All right, here we go. Wine, Dine, and 69. Thank you. My feeling with Wine and Dine and 69 is there's got to be something in between Dine and 69. We can't go, you know, you're having some wine and some nachos. You can't go right into 69, and it has to be the drive back to the hotel or feel a boobie outside of the sweater, like something. We can't just dive right from Wine and Dine into 69. I mean, if we're gonna do it, let's really shuffle the deck here. Let's go Wine, 69, Dine, because I don't want to fucking, I mean, she just finished off a whole platter of, she had a whole platter of stuffed potato peels, you know? The potato skins, you don't want that. Wine, 69, Dine, and then now we got a conversation, you know. You know, sometimes you just sit there like, I don't know, penny for your thoughts. But when you're just done 69ing, it's like it's a gab fest right over there. And at some point she goes, hey, you got something on your thing? Oh, broccoli? No. Well, maybe it was. Wine, Dine, and 69. Thank you for that very heady selection. All right, let's see. We got the news with Gina Grad, and I think we'll just roll right into that.
Give me the news with Grad. News with Gina Grad. Breaking viral, all those crazy Trump tweets. Give me news with Gina Grad. Trouble in the Middle East. Celebrity drunk meltdowns. Need news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, what the Comedy Store and the Laugh Factory need to say is if SNL can do it, we can do it. Because SNL is kicking off the 46th season this weekend with a live audience, but you have to jump through a few hoops to get in on this. According to Hollywood Reporter, tickets to the show's dress rehearsal and live show come with a long list of health stipulations. Audience members will be required to take a mandatory COVID-19 test upon arrival. This is a self-administered lower nasal antigen test with results yielded before the show. There'll be temperature checks, a mask, and you have to wear that at all times inside 30 Rock. Despite the requirements, the October 3rd premiere is sold out. It's going to be Chris Rock and Megan Thee Stallion.
I was trying to think of the temperature thing. I've done the temperature at some hotels.
I did it this morning.
I've done the temperature at some businesses, many businesses, I do feel, but not others. I've not done it at some of the restaurants. I've done it at some of the other businesses. And I don't think, I keep getting back to the airport and the Southwest flight, which is, Maxwell, did they do the temperature at the airport of the Southwest flight?
No.
It's a confined.
Feels like the right place.
It's a pretty confined, I mean, if you took, I'll put it to you this way. I've done a couple of the outdoor dining experiences, like the Parkway Grill in Pasadena. They put up a little shrub, they put some tables, they put a little AstroTurf down. They make it as nice as they can make it. There is probably, all told, 24 people in a decent sized parking lot, all spread out. Southwest flight is basically 85 people in a small alley that's capped on each end. And you can go social distancing, but the seat that's empty in between you and the stranger, that's 19 inches. That's not 6 feet. That's not you at a table over there and them at a table over there. And
not 2 feet.
By the way, when the person in front of you reclines their chair and you can see their male pattern baldness up there, like when the person in front of you reclines, their head is 14 inches from you if you stand up or sit up. There's not a lot of distancing. They do want you to wear the mask. They do not check temperatures. Everyone gets onto the plane. That'd be the perfect spot just to kind of go, all right, we're going to hit you in the forehead.
They're standing in line anyway.
They're not hitting the temperature getting onto the plane. They're not hitting the temperature going through security when everyone just kind of gets to that point in the security where they need your ticket. Yes.
I don't know how you guys feel about the temperature checks. I personally like them. I'm down for any business to be open as long as they take precautions, and you're in charge of your own level of risk. If that's too much for you, don't go to that business. Or if that's acceptable, go to that business. I like the temperature check because a lot of times people have the fever, they don't know it. I encounter it multiple times a week, sometimes multiple times a day, because my physical therapy clinic, I still go there, and they do the temperature upon stepping through the door. And even Tessa's school, which we started sending her back, they do the temperature check on her and me to make sure that no one in the household, at least no one there, has a temperature going. And I like that. I don't know about you guys.
I like it. Well, I like it for a couple of reasons. I like anything that has a result. You know what I mean? Where the guy goes, "You're fine." I go, "Okay." I feel like I did something right in school for a change. You know what I mean? Like something. I feel like I passed the test. It's good to know. I would like to know if I have a temperature anyway. Like I wouldn't even think about it in terms of COVID. I would just think like, hey, am I getting sick? Do I have the temperature? Is there something wrong? Am I run down? Or do I have COVID or whatever? So I have no problems with the temperature. That's just information. I don't think people have a beef with information. I think sometimes they have a beef with a imposed something or something that feels like it's beyond what's necessary.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. But temperature's fine. They could do it. But again, if you put everything against the backdrop of the airport, lots of people indoors going from lots of people in security. And I got to tell you, the airports are picking back up. I mean, when we were going through Phoenix 2 weeks ago, that security was busy. People aren't social distancing. The thing with the social distance is it's kind of catch as catch can. People are in a long security line, so they're not really social distancing. And then they social distance when they get to the X-ray machine. They step back. They give you 6 feet to load your stuff up. But before that, everyone's just queued up. It's not a lot of science to it. There's no temperature checks. You go from crowded in the airport to more crowded on the airplane and no temperature anywhere to be found. So I don't know what's going on. And on top of that, you add traveling to parts unknown. Like you go, I'm going to Phoenix. Well, I'm going to Wisconsin. All right. Well, I'm going to New Delhi. And everyone just spreads out and goes different directions. You would think this would be a recipe for disaster. You think it would just spread far and wide. It would get on the one airplane that has the layover here and someone gets off and then goes somewhere else and they'd just be spreading around. It doesn't seem to be. So that's why I'm curious. You have written on the screen, Max Pata?
Oh, yeah. So also at the airports, like when we were putting things through the X-ray, we use those little doggy bowls. They just bring those right back around. And the touchscreen kiosks are everywhere. Everyone uses these. They say, "Oh, if you want to check your bags in, go to the touchscreen kiosk and print out your own thing." So everybody's touching everything.
Everyone's touching everything. No one's wiping everything down.
Dental dam.
No dental dam. No temperature checks, and not much. Again, I don't know what good social distancing is going to do. An airplane is 9 feet wide and 61 feet long, and there's 80 souls in it. You can try to rearrange those pieces, those chess pieces, any way you want. You're just not going to get that far away from another human being. All right, but yet I have not heard anything coming out of the airports or the airlines or any of that. So that to me is a good sign. What else, Gina?
Well, another piece of SNL news that might be interesting. Jim Carrey will be taking on the role of Joe Biden when the show premieres back on October 3rd. Jason Sudeikis had been impersonating Biden, but producer Lauren Michaels says it was Jim's idea. Jim contacted them, and Alec Baldwin will return as Trump. Maya Rudolph will be back, of course, as Kamala Harris, and like I said, they'll be back in studio.
I'm telling you, she sounds exactly like. I mean, she's not. She doesn't even deserve credit. That's just what she sounds like when she's doing Beyonce. She sounds like Kamala.
You know what? You know what it is? I've been thinking about this because you said it was kind of in the back of her sort of nasal cavity.
Yes.
And you're right about that. They both have a very nasal voice. They speak, a lot of their voice comes through their nose. And I think they both, like you said, they both do that naturally. But I don't know if you just heard that clip of Kamala laughing and giggling about Trump's tax returns. It sounds like Maya Rudolph. I'm sorry. I don't know if we can find it.
If we find it, we'll play it. Yeah.
$750. Come on, man. And she's giggling, and it's all through her nose. So you'll hear it when you hear that.
Oh, and maybe I'm going to include Beyonce in this group, or maybe it's Maya Rudolph doing Beyonce that always made me feel like it was Kamala. But either way, that ought to be good. And they must be doing a half capacity or third capacity or something.
You know, that's
Are they
interesting
going full capacity?
because social distancing wasn't mentioned in the article, and it does say it's sold out. So maybe they think that with all these other precautions and being able to do COVID tests on site, they're just going to pack the place. I didn't see anything about skipping every other seat or whatever.
Well, the problem with sold out is if you go from 200 people to 80 people, you'll still sell out 80 people. But yeah, look, get young people. That's the crowd anyway. Test them out. They're all healthy. Then let them go to it. Yes, I loved Fred Armstead when he would be doing Prince and he would whisper on Prince's talk show.
Yeah.
Do you remember that
He'd
bit?
whisper to Beyonce.
Yeah, he would just whisper, and then Beyonce would translate for him. I don't know why that always cracked me up. Why'd that make me laugh so hard? Did you guys think that was funny too?
It's pretty funny.
Yeah,
that was very funny. He's a funny performer. Speaking of which, back to Gina's original headline. Did you guys? It's never come up on this show. Did you guys watch In Living Color? That was a weekly staple for me. I had to watch it. It's hard to. I wonder if it's hard for like a younger generation to imagine now because Jim Carrey has become like a different person. But he was a fucking comedy force of nature. Like maybe the biggest like comedy, a spectacle of my, teenage years.
Yeah.
Well, he had two things. He had like the rubber face.
Oh, yeah. Fire Marshal Bill. Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, he could just do anything with his face. He could do a lot of the voices. And then most importantly, this like unyielding desire to be loved. And to prove himself and to prove everyone wrong and to be successful. Like it needs all three. You know what I mean? Like you need that body that's made of rubber with this desire to make it at all costs and be noticed all the time and have everyone say you were the funniest, twice as funny as the second funniest cast member and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, when you get divorced and you get rich and you've been there and you've done that, you still have the physical ability. You just lost the motor part. Right, like you don't have that eye of the tiger, which is that please love me, please laugh. I grew up poor. I want to be the most famous, richest person in Hollywood. Like famously, I'm going to write myself a check for $1 million or $10 million or whatever it was, and one day I'm going to cash this check. So that at some point goes away, just like a young fighter who's poor and hungry and on the way up has a different desire than the older, richer fighter who's kind of looking at it as more of a business decision now and not motivated to train as hard and so on and so forth. Brian?
I've seen Rocky 3. Yeah. I know how that goes.
So, but good. It'd be nice to see him back. I always wish guys like that always seem sort of tortured to me. Like I don't know why. I don't know. All the success in the world is probably not worth it if, in fact, you're going to be simultaneously tortured. Better to have a much lesser degree of success and monetary compensation and not have that tortured outlook, which is always just summoned from somewhere in you, and totally unnecessary. But you only figure that out when you're on your deathbed. Do you have Maya no? Sorry, do we have Kamala Harris? Yes.
Oh, we're pulling it now. I don't know if Caitlin has it yet.
If you just play the audio, and we should just listen. I'm just going to close my eyes.
Okay. The first thing I said, did you say $750.00? Did you say? I honestly couldn't believe it. I thought that someone left out the 3 zeros, after a comma.
Kamala. If you close your eyes, you can picture Maya Rudolph. Well, that'll be good. I wonder how he's going to play Joe Biden. I wonder if he's
probably not kindly.
Probably a little out of it.
Yeah, I just wonder if he's going is he going all in? We'll see. Well, it'll be interesting to see how he plays it. All right. Sorry. What else you got, Gina Grand?
Well, nobody likes it when you bring a gun to school. That's usually an automatic suspension. They also don't like it when you bring it to online school when you're at your house. A 9-year-old Louisiana student was suspended after a teacher reported seeing a gun in the boy's bedroom during a virtual class, according to CNN. The attorney representing the child's family said it was a BB gun, and the school went way too far, applying its on-campus weapons policy without considering the privacy of the child and his family. The office is investigating. But what the family says was his brother was messing around in the background with all the stuff. The student took the BB gun, put it next to him on the desk so the other one wouldn't be messing with it. The teacher sees a gun in the camera, freaks out, has a 9-year-old suspended.
Well, you can say
C-, huh?
You can say, what is that? Is that a gun, or is it a BB gun, or is it a pellet gun? The BB gun was a little rich for my blood growing up. My grandfather had a pellet gun.
Is that like the air cap?
Is that an air rifle? Is it the same thing?
A pellet gun is a better BB gun, basically. BBs are just round ball bearings or small little BBs. BBs are one of those things that I would describe by simply repeating the word BB all over and over. You don't know what a BB is? A BB's like a BB. It's like you get a little BB. Like you get a little canister of BBs. You don't know what a BB is? It's like a BB. Like you put a BB like in a BB gun. It's like two B's and a B. It's a BB. What's a BB? It's a BB. It's a little BB. But we put it in a gun. It's called a BB gun because it shoots BBs. Hold on, I'm going to kill myself with this BB gun. So the BB gun,
BBs.
The BBs were the little bearings, like 1/8-inch size ball bearings, round, not rifled. They didn't have a front and a back. The pellet gun were pellets. They're pellets.
No, like a pellet.
Like a pellet. The pellet gun looks like a miniature little projectile, but it's got kind of a front and a back, and it flies a little truer, and probably goes a little deeper in your skin. The air rifles were the ones you pumped.
Right.
My grandpa had one of those.
The caulking ones, the cock ones were like the Red Ryder ones, like that just cock it once and or pull something back and fire it. And then later on there came these little air cartridge ones where you'd put in a little CO2 air canister, sort of like a whip it, like they do to like a industrial powered whipped cream thing, or a seltzer bottle where they'd put the little canister, and it'd just fire off of that until it ran out of propellant. So I never had a BB gun. It was considered sort of, I don't know, we didn't like guns.
Damn your pacifism!
I know. It cost money. It brought joy. I don't know. My grandpa had an air gun. I do remember going to my friend John Tyler's house. This is how everyone under 30, listen up. This is how human beings used to be. My friend John and his friend Chet invited me and my buddy Chris over to John's house. They were a couple of years older. Back when it was a big deal. You got an invite from a guy who was 2 years older than you to go to his house. As you get older, now that I'm 56, I don't factor that in. I'm like, how old's the guy? He's 59. Ooh. I'm going to shave.
Put on my spats.
That's right. So I was like, so John and Chet invited us over. We like walked over to John's house. We like knocked on the door. Nobody answered the door. Then we heard a voice coming from the roof. And we said, what's up? We walked out and there's Chet and John on the roof. And then we're like, what's up? And they both had BB guns. And we said, how's this going to work? And he said,
dance.
You got 10 seconds. And like, you do that move all the time where they go, 10 seconds. You go, for what? You better start running. 9 seconds. And you go, I'm not going anywhere. Come on now. 8 seconds. And they go, I'm not doing it. And then they go, 6 seconds. And you start running at 6. Yep. And they never honor the second countdown. No. They start firing the second you start running. That's the way it works.
Just to make sure I understand this, they invited you over to hunt you?
That's right.
The ultimate prey.
The ultimate prey. Wow. 9th graders. So we started running, and they were shooting us in the back with their BB guns.
It's the fucking purge.
It's the purge. I was shot by another guy named John in my neighborhood, the BB gun once when I was standing out on the sidewalk. And I had a friend named Tom who had an air rifle. And eventually you run out of BBs or you run out of pellets or she started firing. We used to fire. He had a koi pond. We used to fire fish food out of it. Pellets, And
yeah, right size.
My grandfather ran out of pellets, and they had these weird spaghetti plastic lounge chairs that were in the back of their house, and the sun screwed them all up, and I just cut them all up in these little quarter-inch bits and would put those into the air gun and fire that out of the air gun. But I still have a scar on my chest where I was sitting on the toilet at my friend Tom's house, and he kicked open the bathroom door and he pushed the gun against my chest. He had a wood match in it. It was a match stick in it. Again, we didn't have ammunition, but a matchstick would work. And he just pushed it against my chest and just fired the air gun at me. And the match
at your most vulnerable.
Yeah, on the commode, the match kind of stuck in me a little bit. But yeah, we had fun with those with the air guns and the BB guns. But the problem is it's the same. It's the same problem with fireworks, where you go, I want a BB gun. Why? I think it would be fun to safely set up aluminum cans in the backyard where there was a berm of dirt and put it down there and do target practice on the aluminum cans. That's fine. Then you go from cans to, ooh, that pigeon just landed up there on the wire. And then you go from, let's shoot Bad Ronald. Let's invite the neighborhood kid over and shoot. Eventually you start shooting people. It's nowhere. It's fun to shoot cans for a little while, but you gotta go somewhere. And fireworks are fun to light off and then run, but eventually you put them in your hand, you light them, and you want to throw them at people, and that's where people get their fingers blown off. So
PSA.
They don't have footage, or we don't have images of it, do we? The BB gun?
No, just the kid, just the poor kid.
Is the kid still in trouble, or once they found out it was a BB gun?
They're investigating.
Oh, black kid? You can't do that.
Yeah.
No. He looks pretty studious as well.
Yeah, he has his school uniform on and everything.
The big one was called, I think it was called the Red Rider. That was the one
from Christmas Story.
That's right.
Was it?
Shoot
yeah, the 50s
Red Rider
and the
BB gun.
60s. Yeah, and they had it all. It was all laid out for you. All right, let me hit Butcher Box. This episode is sponsored by Butcher Box. Oh, man, do I love Butcher Box. We did the ground beef last night. We did the tacos. I love taco seasoning and ground beef, man. Delectable. Delicious. 100% grass-fed, free-range organic chicken, heritage breed pork, wild-caught seafood sourced from folks who go above and beyond caring for animals and environment and sustainability. Average cost less than $6 per meal, y'all. Options and delivery frequencies to fit your needs. Cancel anytime, no penalty. Ground beef for life is back for a limited time. New members get 2 pounds of free ground beef in every order by signing up today at butcherbox.com. Stuff is good. Olga whips up something new every night, and it's always better than it needs to be. It is super high quality. Butcherbox.com/Adam is where you go. That's butcherbox.com/Adam is where you go and get the ground beef for life. Okay, Gina, let's bring it on home, shall we?
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Gina Grad.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
Had these little glimpses of things pop into your head when you get older. Had a coach in Pop Warner football when I was like 8 or 9. One of the assistant guys, he'd go, "You betch him, Red Ryder." That was his thing. Like, he'd just say that to everyone, go get him, Red Ryder. You're gonna, these weird little things just sort of stick in your head. I didn't really know what Red Ryder even meant. I didn't have a BB gun. It just, he was the cool coach who said Red Ryder. It didn't take much to entertain back then. All right, we should take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll do sports with Cesario right after this.
The Adam Carolla Show presents Candace Owens' birthday cocktail party for April 29th. Let's see who's here. Duke Ellington is here, and he took the A train. Uma Thurman. Jay Cutler. Drainage Eli. Daniel Day-Lewis is here, and he will drink your milkshake. Hey, it's Andre Agassi, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Jerry Seinfeld. Russian Tsar, Alexander the Liberator, William Randolph Hearst, the 124th Emperor of Japan, Hirohito, fraudster and financier, Bernie Madoff, and Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, Willie Nelson. Candace Owens is on the Adam Carolla Show.
Wow, what a birthday you celebrate.
It's an incredible birthday cocktail party. I mean, Willie Nelson. I mean, that's Uma Thurman. That's a solid. I didn't even know those people had the same birthday as me.
You may be the leader in the clubhouse. The book, by the way, Blackout, How Black America Can Make Its Second Escape from the Democrat Plantation. It's available now on Amazon. It's been out for a while. I'm a big fan of Candace. I, of course, know PragerU. You've done some videos, done Candace's show as well. So good to see you, my dear.
Thanks for having me.
So for you, I think people know who you are. They know your name. Obviously, you rub a lot of people the wrong way. I think the way you rub a lot of people the wrong way, I do the same thing, which is you sort of state the truth, you back it up with a few statistics, and then you don't apologize, and then they get apoplectic about it. I don't get it. Once you state your facts and then you back it up with data, then why are you allowed to be so angry at you or at me?
I think what it really is that we're in this sort of outrage culture era. And the thing about outrage culture is the only way it's able to sustain itself is if people acquiesce and apologize to the outrage. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys are all outraged, so therefore I will issue some bland apology that I don't really mean because I just want you guys to be less outraged. And me in particular, I tend to find the outrage to be hilarious. Like people think if more blue check marks or more people say it, then it must be true, which is obviously a fallacy. And yeah, if you're stating the truth, you're stating the truth. So I get that you might be outraged at the timing of the truth, but I'm not sure like what the right time is for the truth to make an entrance. So I'm just perpetually in trouble particularly with the left, but in general.
Do you find Prager always suggests that the conservatives are a happier group of people? And it's interesting because a lot of the stuff I grew up with, and I grew up with very progressive people, out in Southern California. We were poor, but my family's very progressive. And rich people were always described, or I shouldn't say rich people, I should say conservatives. They're always kind of described as super uptight, no sense of humor, very easily offended, kind of God-fearing, pearl-clutching types. And even if the facade, the appearance of their family was a happy, well-put-together family, behind the scenes there was alcoholism and rage and anger. And I always just kind of bought into it. And as I got a little bit older, I started hanging around with some conservatives, and I started spending time with your Dennis Pragers and your Ben Shapiros and folks like that. And I realized, they're in generally a better mood and seem to be even more upbeat and actually seem to laugh a little more. You're Larry Elders, who I know you're a fan of, who's been on this show many times, and Dave Rubin and guys like that. And I went, these guys are actually the funnier, easier going, friendlier group.
Right. And that is true. So the media is very good at creating a caricature of any person individually, but especially of what conservatism is. They've been rock solid on, creating that caricature that you just described. And because they've had so much power before, I think, social media, they were able to sort of sustain that image of the old, stale, uptight, can't laugh at anything. That's what the Republican Party represents. And that's what conservatives represent. And I think there's been a shift, and that shift is largely due to social media, where you're actually seeing that, wait, actually none of that was true. These people have better values. And because we don't take ourselves as seriously as the left can't laugh at anything because they're offended by everything. Everything offends them. People are starting to gravitate towards conservatives and realize that we do have a bit more fun, a lot more fun. We don't take ourselves so seriously. And we realize that humor and making fun of each other is actually a way for human beings to connect. You need that. You should be making jokes. That's kind of that is what connects us as human beings.
Well, I'm thinking, to be fair, there's a kind of a math, which is most comedians and most satirists and the lion's share of the famous stand-ups and, comedic writers and actors are left-leaning people. So if you took the cast of Saturday Night Live or you took the top 20 stand-up comedians working, 19 of them would be considered left-leaning, and so on and so forth. Your favorite TV shows, Norman Lear created many funny, iconic TV shows, and he's a very left-leaning individual. So in a way, I think there's a little extrapolation. Like people are saying, well, Dave Chappelle is left-leaning and he's super funny. So maybe they have the market cornered on a sense of humor. But I don't think it works that way in terms of numbers. But it is interesting that a small group does create the comedy and is on the left.
But the thing is that Dave Chappelle thinks he's left-leaning, but he's not, because he can't survive in what the left has become. And we've seen this drastic change in what liberalism, what leftism, whatever it is you want to call it, particularly, I would say it's catalyzed over these last 6 years, where they take everything deadly serious, where they're literally trying to cancel comedians for telling jokes. And so I did this experiment where I went back. It wasn't an experiment. I just sometimes like to go back and watch old stand-up comedians because they're very funny. And I watched Chris Rock's Bigger and Blacker, which I recommend everybody should do this. Just go back and watch it. And this was just a blockbuster stand-up act, which was absolutely hilarious from beginning to end. And I am watching it now and I'm going, oh my God, this could never exist. Right. He goes right in. He starts making jokes about race. He starts calling Black people out for their flaws, white people out, like, Black people and the culture of baby mama. He starts going after white people. He's like, if it's a school shooter, it's a white guy. You know what I mean? Like, and saying all of these things, and the room is on fire. People are laughing, and he's made fun of every race that you could possibly make fun of. And by the end of it, everyone feels better, right? Because it's like, this is funny and it's hilarious, and we all feel closer, and it sort of unites unites us in our humanity, like, and almost in our fallibility. But now the left has sort of become this idea that any blemish is enough to cancel anyone forever. So they're digging up tweets from 20 years ago. Imagine not being able to have any growth from 20 years ago. I mean, I fortunately, Twitter didn't happen until I was in high school, leaving high school. So I was allowed to grow up, be a jerk, make mistakes. Well, now they're sort of peddling towards this culture and this idea that you need to be perfect from the time you're 4 years old. And that's a scary place to be. And comedians cannot exist under that sort of pressure.
Well, let's talk about your trajectory and how you became who you are today and where you started. I've heard dribs and drabs about your upbringing and college years and epiphanies and awakenings, but I'd like to just start at the start and go back with you, Candace. So you're born where and what kind of family system?
I was born in White Plains, New York, and raised in Stamford, Connecticut. And my immediate family was very poor. So me and my sisters lived in a tiny little apartment with my brother and my parents. So 6 of us, the 3 of us shared a bedroom. There were roaches, fist fights. I talk about a lot of this in the first chapter of my book because the media sort of created this caricature of me as some girl that grew up wealthy because I vote Republican. So therefore, and I'm from Connecticut, and I guess everybody in Connecticut's a billionaire. Right. And so I grew up poor. And when I was about 8 or 9 years old, my grandparents, who were more middle class, came to our apartment and were just like, we just don't want our grandchildren to grow up like this. And they moved us into their home. So all 9 of us lived squished in this more middle class home. So squished. My parents lived in the basement. Me and my sister lived in the attic, type squished.
Wow.
And my grandfather just had a totally different system of how things should run. So he'd get up early in the morning, 5 a.m., make us breakfast, and we'd have to read the Bible, and it's sort of, I call that chapter in my book sort of the early seeds of conservatism, because he was planting those seeds without me being aware or assigning it to a political doctrine or anything. It was just, he believed in structure. He believed in, my brother had to go out and do yard work. He expected us to be young ladies, and we had to go to church and, wear, dresses. He'd pull outdoors. So he sort of, my grandparents is who I attribute a lot of my conservative beliefs in now, because that was something that was right in my life that I didn't realize at the time. I thought they were, God forbid you go to school, you hit this, when you secularize yourself and you go, okay, if I want to be cool, you can't say that you read the Bible in the morning, right? That's not cool. So that was sort of my start. And then when I moved out of their house, when we were in high school, my parents moved us back to a bad side of town. And I just wanted to sort of erase that part of my life. And I became much more, I guess secular is really the right word. And I went through a very tragic experience in high school, which was classified as a hate crime. And I was die cast as a victim, and the perpetrators were die cast as racists. It was essentially a situation, and I go over this whole thing in my book, because the left has taken that story from me. Kids who left a extremely racist series of voicemails. And
you're in high school. You're in high school at this point.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm in high school.
Senior
year of high school.
Senior year.
Yeah, I'm a senior in high school, and the irony of this is I didn't know 3 of the kids who had done it. I had never laid eyes on. The 4th kid I knew, and he used to be a very best friend of mine. It was really a very juvenile situation that got blown out of proportion. I stopped being friends with him. He went out and had his first beer. He was obviously hurt because I had a new boyfriend, and I was, being a typical girl and hanging out with my boyfriend every second. He gets drunk with these kids, and they decide to leave me these horrifically racist voicemails because he's trying to hurt me, right? And if you are a 16-year-old kid and you are trying to hurt someone, and you think of what is the absolute worst thing I can say to a Black person, it's going to be something racist. So these voicemails were, we're going to put a bullet in the back of your head like Martin Luther King, like we're going to kill you like we did to Rosa Parks, we're going to tar and feather your family. I mean, really bad stuff. The irony being one of the kids in the car was a Democrat governor of Connecticut's son.
Oh boy. So it sounded like this kid had a crush on you.
People assumed that at the time, but he's now out of the closet. And I, at the time, knew, that this was not a kid that was interested in women. And I think he genuinely was just emotionally torn up because I went from hanging every single day of every second we were spending time together to me hanging out with none of my friends because I got my first boyfriend and that was it. Like it's so juvenile in the retrospect. But at the time, it became this massive narrative because the governor's son was involved. So it was politicized. And they instantly blew things up in true politician form rather than the governor coming out and saying, my kid was there that night. He did it. He tried to cover it up and say, we need the FBI to analyze the voicemails. I mean, the FBI had to get involved and he knew his kid had done it. And, it took 6 weeks, an FBI investigation and all of this crazy stuff. Newspapers covered it every second of every day because, it's like, wow, we have this scandal going on. It was racialized. The NAACP was meeting me outside of my high school. I mean, just imagine this. I went from somebody that nobody knows to suddenly being die-cast as a victim and being told by the NAACP, they're marching next to me. Irony being, they never spoke to me before the cameras were there and never spoke to me after. So this is about them fundraising because another Black girl went through something. And I was too young to understand that at the time. And these kids were cast as racist. That's it. They're done, rest of their lives. And nobody thought to stop and just maybe do the adult thing, right? So you got the politicians, the organizations trying to fundraise, the news channels, like victim narrative, villain. And nobody thought to just stop and say, these are kids. I would have been fine with an apology. I didn't need these 4 kids to get arrested. I didn't even report it. My teacher reported the incident. And it sort of completely shaped. It killed us all 4 of the kids involved and myself, because I felt like I had a narrative created for me. And I was like horrified that people saw me as a victim. And for them, I know they went on to have multiple arrests, DUIs. I mean, they just were able to ravage children. And the second they were arrested, everyone went away. And it was like none of us, they didn't care. It was just a moment for the media to create and to make money. And that experience would later on, after 4 years of anorexia, trying to properly put what had happened to me into perspective, shape all of my ideas, would really shape my opinions about the media, about race issues, and realizing how obsessed us as a society have become with race issues, and about the dehumanization of people and the inability for people to allow people to grow when they make a mistake.
Right. Yeah, you had a front row seat, and not only a front row seat, you had like a peek behind the curtain of how the apparatus works. And so you're sort of uniquely qualified to get a glimpse at that at such a young age, when many people, and even most, go through their whole life without having any idea of what is actually really going on the other side of that curtain. And it's so interesting when you talk.
I saw the Wizard of Oz. I saw the old guy kind of orchestrating everything.
It's 16 or 17, right?
Yeah. And I didn't at that time, again, it took me a long time to realize it because, like I said, I was so torn up about it and ashamed of it. I was so worried of meeting new people at Google and see these articles, and there it is, victim, victim. And it didn't feel good to be a victim, right? And I'm sure for them, it didn't feel good to be a villain. And I didn't feel good about the fact that they had, turned this kid into an avowed racist. He was my best friend. He couldn't have been a little bit of thinking there. He was my best friend. He couldn't have been an avowed racist. So he was reacting emotionally as a child and said some horrible things and rounds up some people to say some horrible things. And he should have been, obviously he should have been in trouble for that, and not saying that was a great thing to do. But the obsession with sticking a label on someone so early and what that does to them is something that I became very interested in, the psychology of that down the line.
Well, I've heard you speak about it. I've spoken about it many times. I'm coming from, old heterosexual white guy perspective, so no one wants to hear what I have to say. You're probably coming from a perspective that even though you're black, they want to hear what you have to say less than me because you're not saying the right thing. Right. Turning someone into a victim is about the worst thing you can do to a human being, period, flat out. When you have a child and the child is a special needs child confined to a wheelchair or what have you, the worst piece of parenting you can do is convince that child they're a victim. We all understand that universally. Speaking of comedians, Brad Williams, he's a funny comedian. He's a little person. He's outgoing. He's successful. He drives himself all over the place. He travels. He does everything. He's independent. And he chalks it up to, I think his father, I'm trying to think if it's his stepfather. His father said, "You're not a victim. I'm not going to take stuff off the upper shelf and give it to you because you can't reach it. You got to figure out a way to get the mug off the upper shelf if you want a cup of coffee." And he always brings up his dad sort of saying to him, "I don't care if you're 3 foot tall. You're not a victim. Go figure it out." And he is now robust. He has a zest for life, and he certainly doesn't look at himself as a victim and has a great sense of humor about what a lot of people may think is a disability. So we all get that when you're dealing with Brad Williams as a young person, his father did the exact right thing, which is don't make him into a victim. I famously had my daughter tell me she didn't make the volleyball team 4 years ago because the coach hated her, and I didn't want her to be a victim. So I explained to her it's about ability. She's going to have to work harder, blah, blah, blah. I'll support her in that. Do not think the coach hates you. The coach wants to win. They want the best players on the team. You didn't do enough to impress the coach. She's now made the varsity team or the highfalutin team and has never felt better about herself. If I had joined in with her chorus of victimhood of, "Oh, the coach hates you, I'm going to write him a nasty letter and find you a coach who loves you," then I don't think she would have had the success she's having today. So turning an individual into a victim is the worst thing you can do for an individual, and turning a group into victims is the worst thing you can do for groups. Why? We think this is somehow there's some humanity in this. Somehow we're going to treat the black populace as victims because we're good people. That's the part where it goes into that's when it gets insane. Because now not only are you doing the worst thing you can do for a group of people, but you're wanting praise for it, and you're calling the people who don't want you to do that to that group of people bigots. This is upside down world. Thoughts, Candace Owens?
Well, yeah. So really what you see is everybody can be a victim. Everybody is a victim. There's no point. I mean, obviously right now, if I dug into things that have happened to you at some point in your life, you're a victim. Everybody at some point is a victim, and they will be victimized over and over again because that's sort of like life, right? The point is what you're talking about is trying to keep somebody as a victim, as like a prolonged, this is it forever. This bad thing happened to you, and now you get to carry this around forever. And the truth is that becomes a weight. So for me, I sort of entered that next period of my life and I saw myself as a victim. I believed in that perspective. And it ruined me. It absolutely ruined me. I became an angry, bitter, woe is me. Everything's happening to me. It's all because of this thing that happened in high school. Anorexia. I wasn't a good person is the best way to describe it because I had been handed this excuse. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This happened to you, and therefore you now have an excuse to be a bad person. You have an excuse now that if you get a C, it's because of this horrible thing that happened to you. If you fail a class, it's because this horrible thing that happened to you, and the world doesn't understand what it's like being you, somebody who was victimized for the color of your skin. And eventually, and it was because of my grandmother's death, which was untimely and unexpected. I just woke up one day after her death and said, "This is not who I am. This shouldn't be my world perspective. The world isn't happening to me. I'm happening to the world." And her sudden death changed my life because I thought to myself, here's a woman, my grandmother, who lived years of her life in a hospital, was considered a crippled, never, ever complained about anything. Here she is married to my grandfather, who grew up on a sharecropping farm, who had a job since he was 5 years old, who dealt with the real KKK and grew up in a segregated America. And he has never, ever had an excuse about anything. They were like such amazing, incredible people. I dedicated my book to my grandparents. Never heard my grandfather say a bad word about a white person. He would just, if you ask him today, it was just a different time. And remarkably had such a great relationship with the white people that owned the sharecropping farm that he grew up on, that when he retired, he purchased that sharecropping farm from the family, and he now owns it today. So I was ashamed of myself for falling for this poison of victimhood when I have grown up in a society where I never had to lay tobacco out to dry like my granddad did at 5 years old. I did not grow up in a segregated society. I did not, in my opinion, yes, what was said to me was racist, but I knew the person who had done this was not a racist. You know what I'm saying? And so that shame, which is a necessary ingredient, we're trying too hard to remove shame from people's life, led to a massive transformation, and everything it was like being free out of prison. Like, I didn't know I was in prison for 4 years, and suddenly they're like, you're out, you're good, you can go live your life as you want to. And I realized I didn't have to be just a black girl, or just, a victim, and all of these things, these labels that you're supposed to, this is how you need to think. And I got to be Candace Owens as I was raised. I had got to be Candace Owens who could envision a future and decide what I wanted to do, and didn't see all of these barriers everywhere because of my skin color, because of my gender. And it was, it was the best part of my life, and I'm still living that today.
How much effect are you feeling from people like you and the aforementioned Larry Elder, but there's a kind of a growing group of Black commentators, sometimes even comedians, sometimes athletes, your Herschel Walkers, and people just kind of piping up, like things are being said that weren't formally said, probably thought but not said. People are sharing their opinions. It feels like there's a bit of a groundswell in this direction. Now, in my opinion, CNN is never going to do this, and politicians aren't going to do it for you either. Certainly no one on the left. It's going to take Black politicians who are saying, like, enough is enough, like what's going on in Baltimore. It's going to take, it's funny. It's like, it's so crazy when Trump said, hey, Black community, what do you have to lose? And CNN was apoplectic. I was like, that is the truest thing that anyone has ever uttered. He's saying, what do you have to lose? Look what's going on in your communities. How could it get worse than that? And everyone went nuts. It's so funny. When you utter the truth, they go berserk. They go berserk. Right. So, but it feels like there's a groundswell here. It feels like there's more than there was 5 years ago. I don't know if you have numbers. I don't know if you have statistics or just thoughts or feelings.
Absolutely there is. And you can see that, by the way, why they're harping so hard on the race narrative now is because they've lost their grip. They're losing their grip on Black America. And, I take full credit for leading a new generation of Black conservatives. What I mean by that is, I've stood on the shoulders of giants. Larry Elder is a mentor to me. Thomas Sowell informed my entire perspective once I was ready to hear the truth. Walter Williams. And because of those people, I am able to exist. If they didn't write those things and I didn't have someone to turn to that was willing to just keep taking all of these bullets, Candace Owens wouldn't be here. But when I got into this, I realized that what they were getting wrong, and I said this to Dr. Ben Carson, I met him in his office once, and he said, man, you've been able to accomplish more in 2 years than I've in my entire career have been able to accomplish in terms of the conversation in Black America. Obviously, he's way smarter and more accomplished than me. He's just a brain surgeon. But what I said to him was, you were too polite. You, Dr. Condoleezza Rice, you were all just too polite. If they were called Coons or Uncle Toms, they sort of just took it, and, they're too educated. They're not going to respond. And they just sort of gracefully continued in their pursuit for truth. But we're a bit different. We're fighting back, and we're not afraid to have a spat with someone like Cardi B, like I had, a few weeks ago, where I'm calling out Jay-Z and Beyonce. I'm calling out LeBron James. This was unfathomable 5 years ago, right? There was this concept that culture was king and queen. LeBron James literally referred to as a king. Beyonce literally referred to as a queen. So you just do as they say, and nobody has the audacity to dare say anything counter to them. And we've sort of taken that agency back and said, who the heck are you? You know, LeBron James, great. You're talented. You're a beast on the court, but you're not one of the intellectual leaders of our time. And so I think what you're seeing a shift in is an attitude that's catching on in Black America, where it's like, wait a second, who are you to tell me what to think? And when you start getting to the point that we disintegrated so far that now Cardi B is telling us who we should vote for, right? I mean, that's really a problem, right? Then it's actually good for us because it allows us to sort of like take back some of that turf that we lost in past generations of Black conservatism.
I have a couple theories. I'm curious your thoughts on them. One is, it seems to me to really be effective and really kind of turn the ship around, that it's not going to be about converting Blacks to conservatism. It's going to be about taking Blacks and whites who are liberals and saying, you really think this is the plan? Like, you really think this is going to work? Like, do you really think if more young Black boys are being suspended from junior high, do you think not suspending any more Black children from junior high is going to fix a discipline problem, or might we approach it from a slightly more scientific standpoint than that? So my feeling is sort of like, hey, all my liberal pals who literally love Black people, like the liberals in Hollywood and comedians and folks I know, they like Black people more than they like white people. They look, if you don't believe me, if you said to them, who is the top person you'd like to go to, who's the couple you'd like to go to dinner with, it would be Obama, Michelle, and Barack Obama, 100% in Hollywood. So if a great affection, great love for these people. When are you going to start really thinking about these policies that don't work? Why are you voting against school choice? Why are you voting against school choice? You love these people. You want opportunity for them. Every child deserves a shot at a world-class education. Here is a program that Blacks and Hispanics and all the people you espouse to love overwhelmingly endorse because it helps them, and yet you vote against it. Why don't you start thinking about that? Where's your humanity? Where do you care? And if you do care, why not? Why not school choice?
Well, so you said, why don't you start thinking about that? And I think one of the things that people need to understand, or at least be willing to recognize, is that when you're talking about Hollywood, you're not talking about people that think much, right? So the average, prototype of a Hollywood actress or an actor or somebody that reads lines and just repeats what's said to them and very well. And so their heart could be in the right place, but their brain is not. They don't understand these policies. They don't understand the complexities of these policies. Everything is a fad. Everything is about staying relevant. And everything is about feeling good, not actually doing good. So you cannot actually think that these Hollywood actors and actresses understand policy. That if you said to them, ask a question that basic, why are you voting against school choice? If they would have any idea what school choice was beyond the talking points, beyond the script that's being handed to them by Democrats, right? And that is the flaw. And that is why I say, Hollywood, to me, it has become everything the Bible warns against in terms of idolatry, right? These are false idols. And they, like I said, I think they mean well. I don't think Lady Gaga means bad and she wants to destroy Black America when she gets and says, vote for Hillary, right? I think she thinks she has bought into the script handed to her that women are oppressed. They are not, right? And you think she's studying statistics about women versus men and understanding that actually, no, men are actually more oppressed in our society. But she wants to do good. So she's got this passion, to do good, to make other people feel good. She feels like she's broken out. And so the emotionality behind the Hollywood character, a typical Hollywood character, is something that you can't really extract from the occasion, from the equation. So that's what you're seeing: a bunch of dumb people with good hearts trying to affect change.
Yeah, it struck me that in Hollywood, they would say there's nothing they like more than a strong black woman, but they're picturing Michelle Obama.
Mm-hmm.
Then they hate your guts.
Right.
They hate Candace Owens' guts, who is a stronger black woman, because all Michelle Obama is doing is repeating things that make her more popular, and that group can simultaneously knowingly nod all the stuff that's coming out of her mouth. It drives me nuts when people who are influencers explain, when Michelle Obama explains what a systemically racist society we come from, and then gives instances of her being discriminated against, stories like, I went to buy frozen yogurt with my daughters and someone cut in front of me in line. It's like, do you have any idea how often that happens to everyone in the course of a lifetime, white or black or anything?
It's a sign of her privilege that she even brings that up.
The fact,
it's actually a sign of her privilege that she brings that up.
Yes, this thing is like, I have an example of racism. Okay, what is it? I was at a Ben & Jerry's and a white lady went in front of me in line. It's like, your example of racism is something that's happened to everyone who's ever been born?
Right.
That's that's an interesting
example. Somebody cut me off while I was driving. So I have lived through racism because a person cut me off while I was driving. It's like, but they don't understand that because they actually have on these rose-colored glasses and they see everything through the lens of race. And they don't understand these are actual normal instances that every single person on the planet goes through. But you kind of think you're a special snowflake and you should never have to go through this.
Michelle Obama's got to be like, I went to a McDonald's to order an Egg McMuffin at 3:30 in the afternoon, and they said they stopped serving at 11. If I was white, first off, what a horribly insidious, dangerous message for you to keep spreading far and wide, you who are married to a man who did 2 terms as the president of the United States.
Yeah.
The hubris.
And there are people, I use that example often because people will talk about this systemic racism that exists. And I say, do you think that like it's just the color of your skin? Yeah, it's just color of your skin. And I say, so you think Sasha and Malia are living through having a racist, horrible experience? And it's like, well, no, I don't think they are, because there is no such thing as systemic racism. People that are living through various things, there is no such thing as white privilege. In fact, the concept of white privilege is a literal definition of racism, assigning attributes to someone based off the color of their skin, just saying all white people are privileged. I mean, and yet not acknowledging that Malia and Sasha Obama are remarkably privileged, right? And so kind of fostering that conversation, and they can't see it. And it's because there's an entire ecosystem, the media, the politicians, the athletes, that all feed one another in their delusions. And they don't know that they're delusional. They have no idea. And like I said, they don't mean bad, but they do bad.
Well, I got a theory. I got to do a spot and a quick break, but I'm going to tease this for you, Candace. The book, Blackout, you should know, is available now on Amazon. Here's an interesting thought. I believe there's a group of people, CNN and Jesse Jackson and all these guys, the race hustlers, the usual Al Sharptons, the usual hustlers out there. And they basically, this is a cottage industry for them. They get paid. There's the politicians, there's CNN, and there's Al Sharpton, and they make their money off fomenting this race and this hatred, and the idiots that sell books and the nut jobs who are going to lecture every Fortune 500 company about micro racism and all this nonsense. Okay, there's a group of people that are going to make money off it. Then there's a larger group of Americans who are just scared. They don't want any trouble. They don't want to pipe up. You say Black Lives Matter, I want to finish my meal. I don't want to get into it. I just don't want to be ostracized. I'm scared. I kind of believe all lives matter. I don't want to say it. I don't want to be fired. I don't want to be deplatformed. I don't be whatever. So there's a very large group of people who kind of say, I'm down with the cause, but they're not really down with the cause. They're cowards.
Mm-hmm.
As the tide starts to turn, as people like you speak up, as your voices are heard, as politicians start speaking up, as people from the community start speaking up, even athletes and actors, a much larger group of those people who claim to be down with the cause but are actually just operating from fear, they're gonna change fast because they don't really believe it. They're just a large group of scared people who don't want to get called out. Once they see other people sort of coming out, like Scientology. Everyone was scared of Scientology, and then people started coming out against Scientology, and then everyone started coming out against Scientology. Do you think, again, I'll tease this, do you think once it happens, or once it starts to happening, or those dominoes start to fall, it's going to fall fast? It's going to fall quickly because of this large group of people who say they're down, but they're really just scared. I'll tease that to you, Candace Owens, and I will tell you first about NetSuite. If you're a business owner and business is tough out there, you may want to make things a little easier, and that's where NetSuite comes in. Don't let QuickBooks and spreadsheets slow you down. Stop paying for multiple systems that don't give you the info you need when you need it. Upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. Get visibility and control over financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more, all in one place. Whether you're doing $1 million or hundreds of millions in revenue, save time, save money, and step up to NetSuite. Right, Dawson?
Join the over 21,000 companies using NetSuite right now and let NetSuite show you how they'll benefit your business with a free product tour at netsuite.com/Adam. Schedule your free product tour now at netsuite.com/Adam, netsuite.com/Adam.
Let's take a quick break. We'll come right back with Candace Owens, and she can think about my theory of people converting fast once more people come out of the closet, so to speak. We'll do that right after this.
Adam Carolla's I'm Your Emotional Support Animal, navigating our all-woke, no-joke culture, has over 1,000 5-star reviews on Amazon. Here's one.
Adam does again is so invaluable. Refreshing to know that not everyone out there has completely lost their mind.
Thanks, Ozzy. Pick up I'm Your Emotional Support Animal now. Available in all formats. For more, go to adamcarolla.com.
Well, back with Candace Owens, Blackout, name of the book, available as we speak, wherever you find books. And, of course, the Candace Owens Show, available on PragerU.com and PragerU's YouTube channel as well. So my hypotheses of the large group that thinks they're down, but they're not really down, they're more frightened, and once more people come out, so to speak, they will join them.
So here's what I'm going to say, because I've actually thought a lot about this, and I actually like to take it back to kind of make predictions about what we can expect in the future. So I like that you said it's really a small group of race hustlers. These are the people that are committed, who are making money off of this and who really insist that the world needs to run this way. And I always go back to Ruby Bridges. I don't know why this is the scene that sort of plays out in my head. I wrote about this in my book, but I go back to Ruby Bridges walking into the elementary school. I think it was called Franz Elementary School, and a bunch of white racists screaming, spitting, yelling at her, saying the N-word because they did not want this school to be integrated, right? Well, here's the thing. The majority of people, not every person in America felt this passionately about, school integration. Most people probably thought it was time, that this was wrong. And the people that were sort of existing in the crowd that were yelling and spitting and screaming at her were these committed racists who actually just believed that white people and black people were that different. It took for everyone else to realize that they had a real issue. It took actual scenes and them realizing this is actually how far this can become. When people were marching across the bridge and they were releasing dogs on black people and black people were being attacked and they're spraying hose, white people are starting to understand what their silence is costing them with this Black Lives Matter stuff. So now you're seeing images of black people harassing white people, which is reminiscent of the 60s when white people harassed black people at restaurants, at cafes, screaming in their faces, demanding allegiance, demanding they know nothing about these people. And they're threatening them. It's a threatening demeanor to scream in someone's face and to yell. Now white people are seeing that even if you're not racist and a Black person says, I had a bad day, I don't like this person, you can lose all your sponsors. It happened to Leah Michele from Glee. Sounds like she was a really annoying brat to work with, but she never said anything racist. She just wasn't nice to anybody on set. And one Black girl said, oh, I hated Leah Michele. And what happened? She lost all her sponsorships. So I think what will naturally happen is now that you're seeing white people are realizing, here's what your silence is actually costing you. Saying, I don't want any drama. I don't want to get involved. It's costing you jobs. It's costing you corporations that are making you go through trainings and insisting that you're racist. Your kids, your offspring cannot survive in a society like this. When having an opinion can deem them racist, and being deemed racist, just the accusation of being called racist can ruin their entire lives. So you're going to have to grow a spine. You're going to have to realize that you may be uncomfortable in this moment, but you say nothing, and very quickly you're going to wake up one day and you're going to realize that you're in a fully vulnerable position of victimhood. And I try to help white Americans realize that. Technically, I don't have a horse in this race. I'm Black, right? So I'm protected by that. But you guys are not, and you're helping build a society where racism is now being reintroduced as some payback because Black people who never lived through it are angry, and white people that never enacted it are sitting down and taking it.
Do you find it somewhat comical that everybody who disagrees with the left is racist? I find it insulting, but as a comedian, I do find it sort of entertaining. Like every year, somebody is going to run against you and you're going to call them a racist. Someone with no history or policies or anything whatsoever of racism, and somehow they're just going to magically become racist. And you're going to trot that out every single year. You're not going to modify it. You're not going to go, well, we're going to have a hard time with Mitt Romney. I mean, he's not a racist, so we'll save it for the... No, we're going with racist. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Everybody who disagrees is a racist.
Yeah, it's funny, and it's sad, and it's pathetic, and it's actually ushering in an era of Black supremacy, where it's enough for Black people are able to strip power, get book deals, get promotions, all of these things off of an allegation. I mean, you can literally I could call you racist. And if I was a liberal, of course, I'm Black conservative, so if it doesn't count. But if I was a Black liberal and I said, Adam Carolla, I have this racist experience, it could have never happened. And you could lose everything that you own because of the allegation. That's power, right? You want to talk about that. That is real power. And that is being handed to Black people, not because of Black people, but because of white guilt. And I cannot figure out, Shelby Steele has an excellent book about that. It's called White Guilt, of talking about what white guilt is actually costing white people. And you got to hit the brakes and really, really think about it, because you may have been fine, but your offspring, as I said, will not be.
It is. It's a bizarre society that we're crafting, and we are crafting it. That's the crazy part. It's not alien overlords that are forcing us into these awkward, insane positions. It's like, this is what we're doing to ourselves. And the people I do believe who are suffering the most, even though it is definitely tough on young heterosexual male whitey, but the Black community is just not being helped by this. And I couldn't imagine this notion. It always drives me nuts. I don't know why. I've hated celebrities more in the last 3 months than I ever have in my life, I think. But the idea that when Sandra Bullock has to explain that she has to give the talk to her young Black adopted kids, or celebrity du jour explains, what was her name from South Africa? Charlize Theron. See, like Charlize Theron says irresponsible, asinine things like, hey, there are places in this country I won't bring my Black kids. And my answer to that is, name us the city or shut up. You name the city, Charlize Theron, and tell us, or shut up. because don't do that shit. First off, you guys are flying first class and you're staying at the Four Seasons. I don't think you're in danger in any city. And by the way, if you were in danger in a city, it wouldn't be because of the white man. This would be the wrong city on the wrong side of the tracks, not because of a guy wearing a MAGA hat.
Right. And it's statistically speaking, the most unsafe place for her Black child would be in neighborhoods with other Black people. Fair.
Yeah. Okay. That's the statistic. Well,
yeah,
look.
Right. So if there are places she wouldn't bring them, it's Black neighborhoods where her daughter is most likely to be killed by another Black person. And that's the truth that people don't like to talk about.
Yeah. It's a group that never stops quacking and flapping their gums about following the science and data and statistics. And yet it's all out the window as soon as you start trying to compare, unarmed Black men shot by white cops versus other Black young men shot by other Black young men in Chicago or Baltimore. I mean, then every statistic, every number, every piece of science goes flying out the window immediately. Right. So obviously they're being disingenuous. But if at the end of the day you would like to, instead of virtue signal, save a few of those Black young boys on those streets or getting shot by other young Black boys, there are things you could do, yet they're never discussed. The part where you take something like racism, systemic racism, which is such if in fact that were true, would be the biggest problem that any society ever faced. If you just went, we live in a land and it's systemically racist. And you'd go, oh my God, that is crippling to a society. How in fact do we address this? And then you never give any solutions as to how we should address this other than give us more money, essentially, is insane. I want to hear some real kind of rubber meets the road reasons. And school choice would be a perfect example of a concrete example of something that could actually help these people. But of course, they're against it.
Stop voting the same politicians into office that ever ruined these communities in the first place. Stop voting in ideas that the government expansion spells more wealth for Black America when every data point points to the exact opposite, and stop operating under the fallacy that Black people can't get ahead because of white people. And I talk about this in my book, it's one of the biggest fallacies that Black people somehow would flourish if you remove white people from the equation. Where? Not in our neighborhoods. All Black neighborhoods, Black people are dying at a tragic rate. Not in the school system. Black students fare better when they're put into classrooms with white students because there's a culture that does not celebrate academic success, right? So it's not in the home. We talk about the breakdown of family and father absence, start looking at those statistics. So why do we operate on this assumption that once you remove white people, Black people will be fine? There's nowhere you can point to where that proof where there's proof that points to that idea. So that is what people have a problem with. Going back to start of this conversation, is that I tell the truth and I actually believe in equality, right? Equality meaning that I don't believe in white supremacy and I don't believe in Black supremacy, right? I believe in people getting ahead based on merit, not based on a figurative gun to somebody's head, or I'm going to call you a racist unless. And that bothers people that are getting power from that, right? Who are gaining power, who stand to win by building an unequal system. And it's just down the line. I mean, there's no, we can talk about how it ends bad for white people, but it also ends bad for Black people. We have to raise up to the challenge. We have to get smarter. We have to do better in school. We can't just be allowed into schools because we're Black. At the end of the day, a free market society or a capitalist society or just looking at global competition, it doesn't work. We can't pretend to know the answers when we don't, right? A society is not going to get ahead based on giving people extra credit for having darker skin. So equality, for some reason, to most people today, feels like oppression. And it's a bizarre circumstance. So what I'm fighting for and what my movement is fighting for is equality. And there's actually less of that right now in society.
I have one of my last questions for you is a thought, and it just jumped in my head, and I never had it before, but we'll see how it sounds coming out of my mouth, and maybe we can examine it a little bit. So if I talk to some of my liberal friends and I say to them, let's give the black man and the black community, let's set some standards. Let's expect that they show up. And, again, getting rid of making a rule that you can't discipline young black boys in junior high is not going to be good for the future of them. It's not going to fix any problems. It's simply going to get the statistics of you will lower the number of black boys expelled from classes if, in fact, you stop expelling anybody for behavior problems. But that's not, obviously, that's like, I always sort of say, it's like saying this car doesn't go fast enough, and someone goes, well, then break the glass of the speedometer, use your finger, and turn the dial faster. It's like, well, that'll say 90, but we're not going
Right.
any faster. But
Great analogy.
so they say, but Adam, you have to understand. You have to understand Jim Crow. You have to understand the effects of Jim Crow. You have to understand the effects of slavery. How can we expect X, Y, and Z with this in the past? I wonder if, in a way, now that it's 2020 and we're quite a distance from Jim Crow and from slavery, in a weird way, it's all their horrible policies that they've enacted, all the affirmative action stuff, all the stuff we speak about, all these horrible policies that they put into place, all that never-ending rhetoric from the race hustlers in the media. This is the new lingering effect of Jim Crow and slavery. There is a reason why young black boys are having difficulty now, but it's not from Jim Crow. It's from the poison you've been feeding them over the last 50 years and all these failing, horrible policies. So, in fact, there is a tangible, legitimate reason, but it's not that. It's the ones it's the policies you guys implemented.
That's correct. They're illusory policies. So they're meant to make it seem like things have progressed when they haven't progressed. They've actually regressed. All of these policies have actually led to black regression. So you can actually trace a stronger black America at the end of the 1960s than the black America today. So black America was doing better in the 1950s than black America is doing today, right? Why? Because the Democrats seized via the Great Society Act under Lyndon Baines Johnson, complete and utter control of the black family unit, the breakdown of the family, welfare policies that were meant to help, but they just hurt because people then wanted to stay on welfare and had to basically do less to stay on welfare, to aspire to less to stay on welfare and to get that government check. Women were inspired not to marry the father of their children, which disadvantages children because they need to grow up in a two-parent home. So all of these illusory helping, but you're actually hurting policies are what we're seeing today, affirmative action. And if you look at the concrete proof of affirmative action, and it's great to look at Clarence Thomas, when he was really trying to get in the Supreme Court for them to strike this down. And he talks about how it has harmed Black America. Thomas Sowell talks about it. They're all on academic probation. They're getting into the schools and they're flunking out. They're getting into schools and they're at the bottom of their classes. You want to know why? Because they shouldn't be in schools in the first place. Stop forcing them into schools that don't belong and stop mismatching them. Put them into schools where they actually belong, where they have a chance of being up top of their class. Because guess what? Their performance is here. Their performance, you can't pretend somebody knows the answer to a test. So that's what we're doing. And then they get outperformed when, you're at MIT and you've got Asians that are, doing math in ways that Americans just can't do math. And you're wondering why Black Americans are flunking out. You're harming Black America every step of the way by trying to help, right? You want to help? Let us do the work. Stay away from this. Stop talking about it. Let us fix this. Stop giving us excuses. That's the methodology behind how you help every person. Stop giving them excuses and tell them that they have to do the work and they have to figure it out. That's called equality.
Very well stated. My last thought is when you're talking about your grandfather and your grandmother basically saying, this is how it works. You get up early. You go to work. You work in the yard. You read the Bible. You take care of yourself. You present yourself. Unfortunately, it is. I always use this analogy. My audience is tired of hearing it, but you're going to hear it. I always say diet and exercise. The reality for life is if you'd like to lose weight and you'd like to get in shape, it's diet and exercise. And it's boring as shit and it's old as sand. and everyone knows it in the back of their head, but no one wants to do it. And there's fads, and there's trainers, and there's Weight Watchers, and there's fudge brownies that are low carb and high protein, but it all just comes down to what your grandfather said: diet and exercise. That's it. And it's universal. Just like diet and exercise will work the same on a white body as a black body as a Hispanic body. The kind of life that your grandfather preached and led by example is really the only thing that works. It is it. There's nothing from the state. There's no ordinance that can be passed. There's just nothing that can be done from the outside in. It's all from the inside out. It's all about the family. The hard work, the getting up early, the honest day's work for the honest day's pay, the boringest, tritest, oldest stuff, the stuff the left hates because it feels like Ozzy and Harriet to them. It feels they don't like the old stuff. Everything's got to be, we have to reimagine everything. We have to reimagine the family. We have to reimagine policing. We have to reimagine education. We have to reimagine everything. The problem is it's like reimagining diet and exercise. There is no substitute. That is it. If everyone would implement this, every problem would go away immediately. And a politician can't get elected on it. Al Sharpton's not going to be able to hammer checks by talking this way. But yet, it's all that'll ever work.
I totally agree. That's the magic formula.
Well, congratulations on your pregnancy, by the way.
Thank you.
I heard about that, but I don't know. In a weird way, everyone is always loves that, and I'm always like, I want to talk policy.
Yeah. No worries.
But I hope to see you next time you're in Los Angeles doing something for PragerU.
Absolutely.
And always a pleasure, and Godspeed. And I mean it, and I'm an atheist, and I'm saying Godspeed to you, Candace Owens.
That's good.
Blackout is the name of the book, How Black America Can Make Its Second Escape from the Democratic Plantation. Available now on Amazon. And you can also check out her show, The Candace Owens Show, on PragerU.com. And also you can take a look at the PragerU YouTube channel as well. Candace, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'll see you soon.
I hope so. All right, last but not least, we got Geico. Right now, Geico's offering an extra 15% credit on car, motorcycle, and RV policies. That's 15% on top of the money Geico could already be saving you. So what are you waiting for? I say you don't wait any longer. You get going with Geico. Never been a better time to switch to Geico. Save an extra 15% when you switch by October 7th. Visit geico.com to learn more. That is geico.com. All right, Salt Lake City coming up, Wise Guys, this weekend. Couple of shows there, Friday and Saturday. And then also late shows are sold out. Then matinee show as well with Garrigus, and Keckner's going to be on, and all sorts of fun. You go to AdamCarolla.com for all the live shows. Jay Moore, crazy ass. Jay Moore's dragging his crazy ass in here tomorrow. We're going to do some shows with him. And until next time, it's Adam Carolla for Candace Owens and Bald and Gina and Jeff saying mahalo.
Follow the Adam Carolla Show on Twitter at Adam Carolla Show. Follow us on Twitter at Adam Carolla. Big thanks to Bet Online.